Okay, welcome to Faith and Calm. This is class number 241. This is the last class before Yud Shvat. Yud Shvat is, of course, the day where we commemorate the Rebbe's Nesius. He became the Rebbe, and we do it by the mimer that he said, which basically gave us the marching orders for our generation. What is our mission? What are we doing here in this world? It's good to know that you're not just sort of like just making this up and taking care of it yourself. You know that you're part of an entire battlefield. So I'll just give a brief overview and then go into the specific class that I promised you last week about the message for this particular year. Because as if you remember, the mimer is broken up into was said first by the previous Lubavitch Rebbe. It had 20 chapters, and each year, the Rebbe would explain another chapter. And so the chapter that corresponds to this year is chapter 15. And so that's the message specifically for this year. And we have many, many different groups, thousands of people who have been learning this in depth and asking lots of questions, because it seems like it was a very difficult or complicated or philosophical idea. But I got enough explanations that I see that it's really very relevant, very important, and answers a big question people have in life. And I'll get to that. But let's just go over the basic overview of the mimer so that you get it in context. So basically, the Rebbe said the mission of this generation is to finally to bring God down into this world. That's what Mashiach is all about. That the godliness will be revealed to us in this world, present, and we will notice Him. As we say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. When you look around the world, do you see the world as a revelation that there is a God in this world? God is one. It doesn't look like it. It looks like the world's one thing and God's another. The very basic gut feeling is I don't see God, and I don't feel God is one, because I think there's a world and then there's God. That's a problem. So it's called disconnected and disassociated, and a feeling of aloneness in this world. And so God says, I don't want it that way. I didn't plan it that way to begin with. I had a Gan Eden, and I was there, and I was present, and Adam and Chava knew about me, but they messed up and pushed me into the heavens. And then the next generation did worse. And then finally it moved up to the seventh heaven. And then Abraham started to bring things back to the world, into the world, godliness present in this world. And finally, Moshe gave us the tools to actually make a temple and to actually physically manifest godliness in this world. Then it becomes the job of each of us to do our part, because when God said, I make me a temple, make me a mikdash, and I will dwell among them. He didn't say in it. He said, it's not just in the general world. Each one of us becomes a personal temple, a personal place where godliness is felt when we serve God. How do we serve God? What do we do? So that's the goal. Now, how we do it? We take the shtus, the stupidity, the folly, the craziness of this world, and the tendency for us to just to deny God, and to turn that into to actually use those as a tool for actually revealing God. And who does this? We are the soldiers of Hashem. We are the foot soldiers. It is a battle. It is a war. And a king, when he sends his troops into war, he wants them to succeed. And a king, more than anybody else, there's this sort of unreasoning want to actually have things go his way. He wants to be a king. And that means nobody should be able to say, you're not the king and I can do what I want. King gets to say, wants to do everything his way. So a king that's part of being a king. So to say, that also is God. He wants eventually that this world should do what it's supposed to be. He's patient. He waits. He wants us to do our part. And we have to do that part. Okay. So that's basically what we're up to. And now we're going to talk more about what this big lesson is for this year. So it says, it's not just like, okay, fine, you do your job and you'll get a reward in the world to come. But, no. God says, I'm coming into the battle with you. I'm fighting with you. I'm together with you. And I'm going to spend all my treasures on you. And we're going to find out what those treasures are. Those treasures are not just gold Those treasures are capabilities and abilities to accomplish in this world. And that's what the title of this talk is all about, how God is giving us these treasures and these hidden capabilities inside of ourselves to combat whatever kind of struggles that we're having. And this is the question I think people have. They feel, many of these people on this class, I know they feel God has abandoned them. They feel abandoned. They feel abandoned by their parents. They feel abandoned by their friends. They feel that they're alone. And they feel that nobody appreciates how much work they're going through. And that's very hard. And it's worth mentioning that it's very hard. And I don't know anybody who doesn't go through those feelings like, I've never really given the credit and the recognition for how much I'm trying, how hard I'm working on this. Working to live, working to survive, working to accomplish, working with other people, working to be a teacher, working to do whatever I'm doing. And that's a hard task. And you feel like you're alone. And you feel that you're left alone. So what the mimer is talking here, he uses Hasidic terminology, but I will try and make that clear, is it says the reason we don't see God, why do you ask a kid, why did you see God? Yeah, because there was a tzimtzum. What is a tzimtzum? God constrained himself. He's not here. He's not present in this world.
He is.
Look around, ask the kid, where do you see God? I don't see him. Do you see him? Do you feel him? Is he present in your life? So my wife is right. He is and he isn't. What is this? So we're going to get down into the details of what this idea of this tzimtzum is. So many rabbis, very religious rabbis, said, yeah, that's true. I mean, God would not want to be in a garbage dump like this world. So therefore, he's in heaven. It's nice, it's pleasant up there, and he gave this world over to us. That is called tzimtzum kipshuto, a simple simply means God removed himself. They're explaining a concept that was brought down by the Arizal. When he explained God's relation to the world, he said that there was the tzimtzum and God removed himself from the world. So some rabbis took it very literally and said this means literally. That's what it means. God wouldn't have involvement in this world. Comes along Chassidus and says, not so fast. I understand where you're coming from. I know you do all the mitzvahs, but basically what you're saying is there's two separate things here, It's like, you go to school and they tell you, the things of this world are all bad. And if you want to have any spirituality or any reality, anything good, you just take your nose and you put it in the Gemara and you learn Torah and you reject all the things in this world. That is the attitude of tzimtzum kipshuta. It says that the world cannot really exist together with things of holiness with Judaism. Judaism and holiness are opposed with each other, and therefore
Judaism and holiness
and worldliness is opposed. Okay. The other way is some people say, yeah, it's I know, but if you do that, people will run away and abandon their Judaism and they'll run away from it. So you know what? You have to do 50-50. Enjoy do the Torah, work yourself, pray, serve, do mitzvahs. But then, you need to have a little bit of time off. I understand. Go out, have some time off, go fun and have something. That is also saying tzimtzum k'mashuto. It says that the two things are two compartmentalized things. You have to sort of compromise on your Judaism because it just doesn't work to be 100% involved in Judaism 24/7. You have to somehow do holy things and then, the rest of your stuff. Have fun and then go back to doing the real stuff. So it says also that there's not real. So Chassidus says that's a fragmented world. That's a fragmented universe and a fragmented life. And it's that way it's missing a whole message of what Judaism is supposed to be, how it's supposed to be a whole experience. So here comes this year's mimer, and it says the following. It says that this treasure that God is giving to us, it's like a light. And this light has two aspects to it. It comes down, down, down into this world. God is found everywhere in this world. No matter how low and how far away, he's infinite, and therefore he can make himself manifest in every single thing in our world. If you look and you try and you pay attention and you sensitize yourself, you'll see this. You'll be able to say, thank you, Hashem, for even the smallest things in this world. You'll realize that he's there and he's present with you and he's following with you. That has been the previous 4 years of my Marim. And it's sort of like the teacher who is so intelligent that he's not only able to talk to people on his level, but he's even able to talk to the most simple people. And that's an interesting and that's an important point. Now, the Rebbe says it's not only that he's lamata lamata enin tachlis, he's down, down, down into the lowest of worlds, but there's another aspect of godliness in this world. That is that he's higher, the higher without ein kates. What does that mean? He's higher and higher. Of course he's higher. I know he's higher. He was there. He was here. He was in the heavens. He's up there. Of course he's higher. And this is what everybody struggles with this year's Mimer. What does it mean that he's up there? And the Rebbe explains it means, he says, he's hidden, and no matter how far you go, he's still there. What is that? What does that mean practically? What does that mean technically? It means there are mysteries in life. There are things that seem dark. There are things that don't seem to really make sense. And sometimes it's the most important things in your life, and you're struggling, and you want to find purpose in this, and why is this happening? And the answer is, God's not a buddy on your level. To have a relationship with God is to realize he's infinite. And there's going to be parts of him that's mysterious and unexplicable, no matter how smart you get. It's sort of like when your person goes and climbing up a mountain, and he gets up a little higher, and he says, wow, what a great vista. I never thought that there were those hidden things that I never could see before. He thinks he's got to, that's great. I don't need to go any further. Somebody says, no, go 100 feet further, and you'll see even further. And then he goes 100 feet further, and he sees even further. The more you know, the more spiritual aware you are, the more you get closer to Hashem, but you also see more and more mysteries and more confusion and more difficulties in this world. And that seems the problem, because we want them present in our world. The Mimer's telling you, that's great. It's not a fault. You're not going to be, and it's not good to be just down in the valley and not a happy person and just completely in the physical world and not even knowing that there's these spiritual issues in this world, and just living a simple life of just an animal nature, just taking care of. That's not a life. So yes, more knowledge, more awareness, more spirituality, more sensitivity, more delicate souls. The more you go, further you go, the more you see that it's infinite. And that infiniteness of God is not a problem. It's a good thing. Because of what? Two things. One is that when you appreciate that, and you actually are appreciating, you're in a relationship with God himself. Not God as he can constrain himself to fit into this world, but God as he is beyond this world. You're actually making connection to the infinite part of God. He's transmitting that infiniteness to you. Because the more you make yourself a vessel and an open for infinity, the more you can actually express that infinity yourself, the part of you that you don't even understand about your powers. Treasure that God is giving to us, the stuff that we don't even know. Of course, he gives weapons, he gives tools, he gives insight, he gives Torah, he gives teachings to us. That's all part of the lamata lamata einin tachlis. But the lamata ein kates is the hidden treasure. Hidden treasure is not only in God, it's also in us. He's making that available. That is pretty miraculous. That is what the Magid, the student of the Baal Shem Tov, explained. He said that this idea of tzimtzum is related to the concept of that when Moses was told to make two trumpets, and it says Asalacha Chatzaros. What is this word Chatzasros? Chatzasros is Chatzitsurus, half pieces. You are a half of God. He is a half of you. We are two halves that need to be together. All relationships are about this. It's about connecting not only to the part that you appreciate in the other person, it's also appreciating the part that you don't understand and that's beyond you. And there's always a mystery. And sometimes you get more excited about that. In fact, you do get more excited. It's no big miracle for some to understand what the teacher is explaining to you. But when you're actually also understanding and connecting to the part that you don't relate to, then that's really, you're connecting to the real core of the person, because that's who they are. They're the part of you that they can't express words. And you're connecting to that too. So in this way, we connect to a level of godliness that is beyond this world, and we bring it into this world, which is the idea of Mashiach. They actually bring godliness down into this world, a godliness that could never possibly be here before. It can't be explained, it can't be understood. It can connect and make sense of all the most crazy things that we have in this world. We actually, when we be foot soldiers, we actually bring that level of godliness down into this world. So the Magid is basically, he explains it. He says that, you know what? The purpose of the Tzimtzum in Hasidic terminology is not that he be hidden, not that we can't find him, not that he doesn't see the world. He's actually, by doing that, is making himself more available. Who? His true being, not the part that can fit into the world, but the true level of godliness that is not limited by the world, that can change and transform the whole world. He's actually saying, come, I'm lonely, you're lonely. We're two halves. We need to be together. I need your feeling of abandonment and your feeling of loneliness is ultimately a feeling is coming from the God peace inside of you, that he's lonely and he feels abandoned. So when we open ourselves up, it's a difficult task. It's difficult. It is difficult. It is challenging because you have to, at one side, say that Tzimtzum is real. I really do feel abandoned. Don't pretend like I can just jump over this and say everything's fine. Godliness is down in this world. It doesn't work that way. You have to first go through the process, and you have to go through the process of feeling that I'm far from God, and then you can actually then feel that you're close to God. And I'll conclude with this actually helps us understand a certain line in the Tehillim that we say quite often. It's in chapter 90. I think we say it every Shabbos at least, and maybe more. You ever heard this line before? Samchenu ki mimot initanu shnos reinu ra. They translated in Safari as "Give us joy for like the yamos, like the days that you afflicted us, and for the years that we suffered misfortune." So it sounds like he's saying, you know, hey, I had 10 years of bad life, not married, all sorts of problems and so forth. God, you know, I paid my dues. Now give me 10 years of good life together. That's what David HaMelech seems that he's saying. Corresponding to the inmates anios of suffering, I should have shnos of rinu ra. The deeper meaning of this is shnos means not only years, it means to change. You really feel how you can really transform those days of bad into happiness when you realize that the feeling of abandonment itself is actually a feeling of closeness to the infiniteness of God. That's what Rabbi Akiva said to his colleagues when they saw the temple destroyed. He told them, just as you are crying now for the temple, so soon should you be happy about, because it means that it's eventually going to be rebuilt. He wasn't saying half and half. He was saying nobody is as happy. Somebody who comes out of who goes through tears and realizes through those tears that you know what, you really appreciate life more than ever before. When those hostages came out of the tunnels this last week, and there were all those tears of happiness and joy and so forth, they really, I think, I listened to a couple of them, and I think they got this message. It's not that they're two separate things. They really are. There was God with me in those difficult problems and in the abandonment and in the tunnels and in the suffering. And I really appreciate it. I can enjoy. It can give me simcha. Shnus, how you turned over, you transformed the nisanu, the difficulties and the pain, and the ra, and turned it into something that I can rejoice and be happy from. That is ultimately what this galus is all about. That is what all this years until Mashiach comes. That is what is at the core of all of this reality, is that the suffering is not for the suffering itself. The suffering actually builds you and makes you closer. You can't start out that way. You got to suffer first. I'm sorry, you made it that way. I can't help that. But you know what? In the end, the suffering was great. I feel so much more attached. And that's how you get closer to a relationship to infinity. And I bless everybody who's listening to this. Oh, I don't see anybody online, but I hope everybody's listening to this. And that you know exactly that you should feel exactly what Dr. Melech said. And with that, I'll turn over the conference to my wife.
Yeah, I didn't want to no, I didn't want to okay. Okay. So, um, thank you so much. Can you open it also?
Oh,
thank you.
Ask one thing. Ask another thing.
Okay, so I'm going to begin with the way that I usually begin, which is to say 4 very important things. Number 1, we're in an amazing time. We're in the unfolding of the redemption, and and um, and I know that because the Lubavitch Rebbe, who made the most astounding predictions, all of which have come true, told us about this, and this also is coming true. And secondly, our souls were handpicked to be in this time, yours and mine, because not just by happenstance. We were picked because each one of us individually and collectively have an incredibly important role to play in this last juncture of human history. Um, and and third, um, Hashem didn't abandon us. He gave us all the tools we need. He gave us great leaders like the Rebbe. He gave us the Torah, which is our guidebook, and he gave us the mitzvahs, which are our power tools. And finally, what we're doing tonight actively advances the purpose of actively advances the unfolding of the redemption. So I'm not going to speak long. I just want to say a few things along the lines of what Yehezkel Shimon was saying. You know, there's a rabbi that I've come to like very much. His name is Rabbi Zalman Tachtel, and he's the Chabad rabbi at the University of Kansas. And he brought out a great point that you know, we just finished in last week's parsha. Uh, yeah, in last week's parsha, we just finished the last 7 of the plagues, the Makos. And we know that the 8th plague was the plague of darkness, and we know that there was an extraordinary thing about the plague of darkness. For the Jews, there was light wherever they went, even if they went into the house of one of the Egyptians. The Egyptian, it was totally black; it was thick darkness. But for the Jew, he could see everything. And for a Jew, it was light wherever he went. And Rabbi Tachtel was saying that the same thing is true now, that a Jew has the power to make light wherever they are. And he said an amazing thing, that how do we do this? How do we make light wherever we are? By the choice of not being a victim. When you decide that whatever you know, we all have, I think that uh, you know, negative occurrences are just like par for the course. It happens to all of us every single day. Some worse, some much worse. Some, you know, but it's part of life. And when you see yourself as a victim, you are not in the light. But if you as he said, it's not life is not where you find yourself. It's the Rebbe says, actually, it's not where you find yourself, it's where you put yourself. So even the people who were in the tunnels, who came out, and Agam Berger, for example, in the decisions that she made in those tunnels, she made herself freer, more free than her captives can ever possibly be. She was a free person. They're not. They're driven by their instincts and everything else. And she made the decision that she's living with God. She's there in the tunnels. She doesn't know why she's there in the tunnels, but she's not leaving God. She's siding with him, and and for her there was light even in the tunnels. So I want to say that I have an aunt. She's a remarkable woman. She's going to be 97 in 15 days, Emir Hashem, God willing. And she's like a tower of strength for for my family. And my and I've studied my aunt. You know, my aunt is a remarkable person, and people are drawn to her. she was born into a somewhat observant family, and she picked up a lot of wisdom from her childhood. And she, how does she live life when something happens to her, something untoward happens to her? She doesn't hold Hashem's feet to the fire. She doesn't say, "What are you doing to me? How can you do this? What's going on?" She doesn't do that. She just she has a twofold strategy. Number one, she 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 doesn't turn away from Hashem. She doesn't blame Hashem. She doesn't turn away from Hashem. She doesn't, and a lot of difficult things have happened to her. She has an expression that she said to me many times. She lives with this that her mother taught her. Wie Gott führt dir, azoy mit sein. The way that God leads you, that's the way you got to go. And you don't look over his shoulder. You don't try and edit him. The way God leads you, that's the way you have to go. God is it's an understanding that God is God, and whatever is happening in your life is beyond what you can understand. So the way God leads you, you have to accept it. You have to accept whatever Hashem does for you. But like a father, you can always ask him for whatever you need. You don't accept to the extent that you don't ask him for what you would like. You do like a father, you ask him for what you would like, but you don't think that you know better than him, and you don't question that he has your best interest in mind. You keep him as you keep Hashem as God, and 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 whatever. So that's one thing she does. She wait was she yeah oh anyway she I guess I wanted to say something else about her and I can't really remember now. Okay, maybe it'll come back to me. So anyway, I in my saner moments that's what I try and do too. And and uh And I know that one way of living with God is living with happiness. And when a person is happy, it changes their reality. Their reality can change in a moment. I had this, as you know, I had this very, very, very vexing 2 months with barely a voice. And it was really, really very, very, it was excruciating for me, not because of the physical pain, but because I'm a teacher. And when you're blocked from doing that which you want, I mean, for 2 weeks, I was out of the classroom. It was extremely painful to me. And I felt like I was abandoning the children. They didn't have Judaic studies, they had other things. And I couldn't understand why would Hashem want this to happen? And so anyway, um, this morning I did something weird to my throat yesterday, and this morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, it was like there was a wound in my throat. Like when I swallowed, it was like when I swallowed, just like in bed when I swallowed, it was like something wrong in my throat. There was like this, it felt like an open wound in my throat. And I was thinking, oh gosh, not this again. What did I do yesterday? And and I started to go down that road. And then I said, no, this is not the road we're going down. And I started laughing and laughing and laughing. And I said, huh, this is from Hashem. It's good. And all I did was laugh and acknowledge that it's from Hashem, and Hashem is way above me. And you know what? My throat, my throat fixed itself up very quickly. So, so by accepting God as God and allowing Him to be God, and at the same time doing what we can to help ourselves, that's a huge part. We can change any darkness. We can change our darkness to light. So okay. So anyway, that's yes, that's what I wanted to say, and I want to wish everybody a week of light, a week of light for the whole world, and may we rejoice together in the rebuilt third temple. So I love you all, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Be well. I'm going to turn off the recording right now.